Stories of Briscoe and Bradshaw. I would be Bradshaw. That would be your Chickasaw native, your Chickasaw Hall of Famer, Oklahoma's favorite son, Mr. Gerald Briscoe. And what a treat we got today. We got a war hero here. The man helped with the invasion, the unification, the liberation, whatever you want to call it, depending on where you were, depends on what you call it, of Grenada. He's also a former Alabama heavyweight champion, tag team champion, and he was a tag team partner of some guy named Ron Simmons, who the whole world knows very well. He is Mr. Ranger Ross. Ranger, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me here. It's a plum pleasing pleasure as well as a privilege.
Well, Ranger, what do we call you, Ranger or Ross here?
Just Ranger be good.
Ranger will be good. Well, John told me a couple of weeks ago where he was trying to get you on, man. I thought it was fantastic. I hadn't met you personally, but I've seen you on TV and everything. Really enjoyed your work.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
I met you at Cauliflower Alley about 3 years ago, maybe.
I had to be drunk not to remember you.
And I asked you, I told you that I was a big fan of yours, and could I take a photo with you? And you said yes. I took a photo with you.
Did I charge you?
No, but
well, I must have really liked you then.
Hey, Ranger, you got to excuse him. See, Mr. Briscoe asked me a while back. He said, "Do you ever notice I might be slipping or anything?" And I said, "You're from Oklahoma. How can I tell?"
But we did meet, and it was an honor. No, I actually was a big fan of yours. I came to see you and your brother wrestling in the Savannah Civic Center.
Wow.
And it would have had to be 1981, 82 probably. And you guys was working with Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood.
Jay Youngblood. Wow, that
was a barn burner. You guys worked y'all butts off.
Man, and what a hot-ass building that Savannah Civic Center was, too. Even with air conditioning in there, it was hot all the time.
Yes. I was actually in the Army.
Oh, you was in the Army during that time?
Yes, I was.
Where were you stationed at? Fort Benning?
No, at Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah. That's where the Rangers are located at.
Wow.
So
did you go with all your Ranger buddies to the matches?
I took a couple of them with me.
Yeah.
And I had told them that's what I was going to do, was going to be a professional wrestler.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let's back up to that then. We all have, when we're young, we're all watching guys. Who did you watch, and what kind of, were you an athlete growing up in school that made you want to become a professional wrestler? How did that spark hit Ranger Ross?
When I was a kid, I was in the second grade, and our teacher was asking everybody what they wanted to be. So this would have been 1965, maybe. And everybody in my class wanted to be an astronaut or a fireman. And so they go through the class, astronaut, fireman, and all the girls wanted to be nurses and stuff like that. And I said, I wanted to be a wrestler. And everybody just turned and looked at me like I was crazy. And then my teacher pulled me aside because some of the kids was laughing. And she said, most profound thing I've ever heard in my life. She said, everybody that says they want to do something, that's a dream. She said, if you write it down, it becomes a goal. She made me write it down. I still have that paper today.
That's awesome. What a great teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Awesome. So when I'm speaking to kids now, I tell them, if you want to do something, write it down. Put it where you can see it every day. Because if you write it down, it becomes a goal. Yeah. I was a scrawny little kid. So I wrestled.
This is what, your second grade year or something like that. So
yeah, this was
what sparked that interest? I'm sure it was Jack and Jerry Briscoe that sparked that interest.
Oh, of course, without. Well, when I was a kid, we used to get wrestling. It was on channel 17, and back then we had the rabbit ears. Right. Somebody has to stand there and hold the antenna.
You put tin foil around them to get better reception.
And so when I got to high school, I wrestled in high school at 98 pounds.
Wow.
Wow.
I sure did.
What were you at your biggest, just to give an example to people, because you're a big man?
Well, I wrestled in high school at 98. When I graduated, I weighed 143 pounds.
Wow.
And what were you when you're at your peak of when you're lifting the heaviest in your life?
About 260.
So
Wow.
120 pounds heavier than high school. So you go
Yeah,
back to like your high school reunions, go, you look like Robert Ross ate Robert Ross.
Well, I went to the 5-year reunion and everybody's like, "Who are you?" I said, "Hey, man, we just hang out together." They're like, "Who?" I said, "I'm Robert Ross." They said, "No way." And they would grab me and drag me across to meet somebody else. Guess who this is? I don't know. And so actually, I grew more at age 21 and 24. I mean, height wise, I grew 2 inches when I was 24 years old.
Wow.
Wow.
That's really
so,
unusual.
I know I was a late bloomer.
Yeah.
So they gave me the award. They had the awards at the class reunion. They had the Silver Fox Award, the one with the most gray hair. They had the Fertility Award, the one with the most kids, and then they had the most change. I got most change.
Well,
So
I could see why you didn't get the Silver Fox one.
yeah. So the ball thing. Let me tell you about this. God made a few perfect heads, and the rest of them He put hair on them.
Amen. I'll go for that.
They in Texas, Ranger, we say you don't put a roof on an empty barn.
Yeah, that's funny.
So, Ranger,
So anyway,
growing up, was it your dad, your granddad, your mom, or your grandma that you used to sit and watch wrestling with? I always enjoy hearing these stories. Who
oh my goodness, my grandfather, when he watched wrestling, you had to kind of clear out a space
did you?
because he was very animated
Yeah.
and he would fuss at the TV. It was hilarious.
Yeah. And
But
you would have to stand there holding the rabbit ears, adjusting the rabbit ears. Right?
yeah, I was the crash dummy.
Yeah.
Yeah, people say you don't have remotes back in the 60s and 70s. Yeah, you did. They're called kids.
Yeah.
They call kids.
My dad used to sit there in his big easy chair to put that on channel. You know, I had like 3 channels. Like put it on channel 7, put it on channel 5. You know, come
Yeah.
on.
And so when I finished high school, I noticed that there was no 143-pound wrestlers I saw on TV.
No.
So I was like, okay, this is not going to work. How am I going to get there? So I saw this thing about these Army Rangers. I was like, I could do that. So I joined the Army Rangers.
Did you have any affinity for the military, or your family was in or anything, or you just thought this was an opportunity?
No, my dad, he fought in Korea. And the most ironic thing about my dad, I would ask him, "Daddy, how many people did you kill? How many?" He said, "Don't you have?" He said, "Go take that trash out." He would always change the subject, always. So when I joined, I was 18 years old, and I come in, and my mom and dad were sitting in the living room, and I told them I joined the Army, and and my dad said, "Well, what are you going to do? What kind of job you got?" I said, "Well, I'm going to be an Army Ranger. I'm going to jump out of airplanes." And my mom said, "Oh my goodness, why can't you do something normal?" Because I would jump stuff on motorcycles, racing, go-kart, anything dangerous, I was trying it. And so I told my dad, I was going to be an Army Ranger. That was the first time after my mom left the room. He actually told me about his experience in Korea. But he never told me when I was a kid. He only told me after I joined. I was like, wow, okay. Yeah. So anyway, I joined and went through all of that crazy training to become, and then I noticed I started gaining some weight. I don't know what the deal was. I just started gaining weight and start, working out, and it started to pay off. So after 4 years, it still wasn't big enough. So I enlisted for another 4 years.
Wow.
So you talking about somebody that was determined to be a wrestler.
And all this was become a professional wrestler.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yes.
I've heard of making sacrifices before, but you're making the ultimate sacrifice here.
And so that was, let me explain this to you. That was 5 things I wanted to do in my life. First, I wanted to be a professional wrestler. I wanted to jump out of an airplane. I wanted to learn.
Why did you want to jump out of an airplane?
Well, just that, I saw, people doing it, and I thought that was like cool, dangerous, kind of drilling type thing. Like, I want to do this. And so I did that. I wanted to learn to fly a helicopter. I went to flight school. I did that.
Wow.
I wanted to learn to fly an airplane. I did that. And I want to marry the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. And I did that. So
that's the most important one.
I'm done.
Ranger, let me guess. The wild world of sports when Evel Knievel was jumping, you never missed him, did you?
Oh, that guy was off the chain, man.
Wasn't he?
Love that guy. Love that guy. He just wasn't that good on sticking the landings.
No, you ain't kidding. He was good on the takeoff. He's good on flying. He wasn't good on landing.
Yeah.
But, as you look back on Evel Knievel, being that he was a pioneer and nobody had done this stuff before, the shocks on those motorcycles, he was jumping with these heavy motorcycles without the proper shock absorbers on them. So now people are jumping motorcycles and doing all this, and they get a better outcome because of what he did. He was the crash dummy.
I can almost guarantee you that none of these young guys, and there's really talented guys, and they're fearless, would jump with a stock Harley Davidson from 1970 like Evel Knievel did.
That's so important. I mean, we think of these great jumps at Evel Knievel, but you don't think of the equipment that Evel Knievel had. It wasn't by choice. That was the only choice that he had back in those days. Like you said, a stock motorcycle. That damn thing had to weigh hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and he's out there trying to set record for distance on jumping on these damn things. So, wow.
Exactly.
The greatest thing I saw in him was, because I love Evel Knievel, loved him when I was a kid too, was the Wembley jump when he tells them, he goes, I can't make them for 14 buses. And they're going, well, take one out. He goes, no, I said I'd jump 14. They go, well, you said you couldn't make it. He goes, no, I have no chance. And he went and did it and almost killed himself, but he did it because he said he was going to. I mean, he was fearless.
Yeah, and what a worker he was after he down.
Oh, he was so good.
Frank Gifford comes over. Frank's standing over him, kind of looking at him. He said, "Pick me up, Frank. Pick me up." He's telling Frank how to do TV.
Yeah.
Frank picks him up. Turn me, Frank. He turned him towards the camera. He's doing everything Evel was telling him. So Evel knew TV back in those days, even.
And he created his own name by barnstorming. I mean, he created the whole genre. Like you say, Ranger, he created that whole Daredevil genre himself.
Yes. That's so impressive about Evel. And most people don't realize. They say, oh, he wasn't that good at jumping. Yeah, you tried to do what he did with the equipment he had, and then you come talk to me.
Right. Yeah, that's right. So what is the progression? Like, you join the Army, and I understand you want to be a Ranger, but that is the elite of the elite. What's the progression in the Army to get from, say, private, where you join on basic training, to get to the point where you start to join the Rangers?
Well, first you got to go through boot camp, which is 8 weeks. Then after that, you go to infantry school, which is 8 weeks. It's like basic training all over again on steroids. And then you finish that, and then you leave from there. You got to go to jump school for another 3 or 4 weeks and learn how to jump out of an airplane. Then when you finish that, then you go to what we call RIP, Ranger Indoctrination Program, and they're going to put you through the ringer to see if you actually really want to do this, because all the people in the Rangers are volunteers. You can wake up one morning and say, I don't want to do this anymore, and they would send you to the regular Army, no questions asked. The only time you could not quit being a Ranger is when you was in an airplane, the door was shut, and you was in the air. If you quit while you're in the airplane, you'll get court-martialed. Now, if you jump out of the airplane and get on the ground, you can quit, but you cannot quit in the
Can you
airplane.
quit on the way down? Like as soon as you're going out the window, go, brother, I quit. I quit. You know, like,
Yeah.
like the kid at the bottom of the dog pile. When, you know, when you're, get off me, get off me.
Yeah, on the way down, long as you exit the airplane, you can quit. You quit in that airplane, you're going to get court-martialed.
So when you go through basic training, do you then have to say, "Hey, I want to be a ranger"? Is that how you get to all that process?
No, you can enlist for the Rangers.
Oh, you can. You can enlist directly for the Rangers.
Yes, but that don't mean you're going to make it. Because once you enlist, it just shows that you're going to start at this point and you're going to get to the Rangers. When you actually get to your unit, that's when it starts. That's when you really separate the men from the boys.
And so you were able to go through your training basically at home then, right?
No, I went to basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, went to infantry school at Fort Benning, went to jump school at Fort Benning, and then I was shipped over to Fort Stewart in Savannah, where the Rangers was actually stationed at. Because
I was at Fort Stewart for 2 weeks.
What were you doing down there?
National Guard summer camp training.
Yes. Hey, listen.
When you were joining the Rangers, I was joining the National Guard.
I tell you what he was doing. He's trying to stay out of the Vietnam War is what he's trying to do.
Yeah, amen. And I did.
Hey, brother, my hat's off to you, man. Because I'm telling you, I didn't like the way that campaign went. I don't know if they had a clear objective to win.
We never did.
It was more political, and we lost like 58,000 people and then turned it back over. That just
more billionaires were made during that conflict than any other conflict that the United States has ever had.
Well, Ranger, I got one of the greatest moments of my life at WrestleMania, and we're sitting there, and Mr. Briscoe called me over and said, "Hey, come here, take a picture." So I knew it was somebody important, but I didn't know who it was. So, obviously very polite because I know something. And as she walks off just a little bit, he goes, "That's my Mrs. Muhammad Ali." And I said, oh my goodness. So I went over and I grabbed her, and I've never done this before, but I said, "I just want to tell you how much your husband meant to me and my dad." I mean, we watched all of his fights, but he was right about everything in the 60s.
Yes.
And I told her, I said, it's a shame that he lost his voice because the world really needed his voice. And she said, the world still needs his voice.
Wow.
But it was so cool. And Ali was right. He was right about all of it. And thank goodness you had some great legends at that time with Bill Russell and Jim Brown and those guys Lou Alcindor that stuck up for him, because most people didn't.
Well, you look at it this way. Lady Bird Johnson, President Johnson's wife, she had stock and owned part of the Hughes Corporation, which made Huey helicopters. That was the helicopter war. And not only will they sell a helicopter to the United States Army, but when you buy that, you buy also parts that goes with it. So every time a helicopter went down in Vietnam, they sold them another one. So when
like I said, more billionaires were made during that conflict than any other time.
Ranger, people talk about, man, the government's just gotten so corrupt. I say, gotten. When was it not?
I think that war there kind of opened up everybody's view about what wars are really about, and that's about making your friends a lot of money.
Yeah.
So what was was there a final test? Was there a final exam? What was it like to finally become a Ranger?
Oh, here it comes. Here comes misery on steroids.
I love it.
Okay, here it comes. Okay, once you get through RIP, Ranger Indoctrination Program, they'll take all of the new Rangers and put them out, hit this little camp, and they put them through the rigmarole to see if they really want to be a Ranger. And you got to make probably about 20 parachute jumps while you're out there. Because you make 5 jumps just to get airborne qualified. That's not enough to jump with all of the rest of these guys because we're professionals and we don't want these rookies they're six jumping with us because it's dangerous. So they'll put them out there and they'll train them, and then they'll bring them to our unit. When you get to the unit, the sergeants and your platoon sergeants, squad leaders, all of that, they would evaluate you and see if you're ready to go to Ranger School, which is you're probably going to be there at least a year or 2 years. And then they'll send you to a place called pre-Ranger. You go out there and they're going to put you through the ringer again to see if you're ready to go to Ranger School. And they bring you back, feed you, fatten you up, and then you go to Ranger School. Here it comes. Ranger School is the most miserable time you'll ever have in your life. First of all, you get 1 meal a day. Sometimes you don't get that. You get 2 hours sleep a night. Sometimes you don't get that.
Wow.
I remember it's broken down into 3 phases. The first phase is at Fort Benning. They teach you what to eat, how to navigate, how to survive, everything, all the survival stuff. They do it at Fort Benning. After about 3 weeks of that, they'll send you up to Dahlonega, Georgia, and you do mountaineering training where you learn how to fight in the mountains, how to do a litter evacuation. One of your friends get hurt climbing the mountain. They teach you how to get them down the mountain, how to fight in the mountain, how to live in the mountains. And you do that for about 3 weeks. And then here comes the last part. They send you down to the swamps in Florida, and you live in the swamps for 3 weeks.
Ooh.
And all of this time, you get little sleep, and you get no food. Only time you get to sleep in a bed, and you get 5 hours, mandatory. You get 5 hours of uninterrupted sleep. It's the day before you have a parachute operation. So while you're in Ranger School, you'll do a jump in the Fort Benning phase, you do a jump in the mountain phase, and you do a jump in the Florida swamp phase. And so you know that if you have a jump that next day, they'll bring you in, you get to take a shower, you get to get into bed and sleep for 5 hours, and they can't come in and harass you. So you're just praying for that jump to come, and you get to eat in the chow hall. So anyway, and then once you finish that Florida, by the time you get to Florida, you look like death warmed over. I mean, your face is sunk in and you're skinny. I remember going to Ranger School, and I got there, I had on a pair of jeans, and you take your civilian clothes and you put them over here. And when you get finished, you get your civilian clothes back. I could put on my same pair of blue jeans, button them up, zip them up, and they would just fall right down to the floor.
Wow.
When I went to Ranger School, I weighed like 202. When I graduated, I weighed 165, 168.
Wow.
Wow.
I remember doing a patrol up in the mountains of North Georgia. It's called the TVD, Tennessee Valley Divide. We were walking. The sun came up. Now mind you, we carrying about 70 pounds in our rucksack, plus our water, ammo, weapon. We're walking up this mountain. The sun came up. The sun went down. The sun came back up. We were still walking.
Oh,
up,
my goodness.
down these mountains. Yeah.
Wow.
And some of the toughest guys I've seen that I thought, oh, he's going to make it. They didn't make it. Most of the people that make it through Ranger School are not the big muscular, athletes, because it's a mental thing.
Right.
So what they do in Ranger School is they can't shoot real bullets at you. They can't put you in combat. So what they do, they deprive you of food and sleep, and then they put you in charge of a patrol. And while you're doing this, there's an instructor. He's evaluating you. Nobody else but you. And you have to pass each phase. If not, you'll get recycled back to day one of that phase.
Ooh.
So
you got to go all the way back and start all over again.
You got to go back and start over again. And I felt sorry for those guys that got recycled. And they have a way that if you don't pass a patrol, even if you pass all your patrol, they'll take you and put you in this room, and they give you a list of everybody that's in your squad, and it's called a peer evaluation. Everybody will evaluate everybody in that squad. It's 10 people. Who is the best, who is the strongest, and who is the weakest. If everybody put down that this guy over here was the weakest, guess what? He's getting out of here. He's going to get recycled. Even though he passed all his patrols and all his evaluation, but he's going to go back to day one.
So peer evaluation is probably the most important part of that.
Oh my goodness, yes. Because you have some guys that we call them spotlight heroes. When they were being evaluated, oh, get over here and do this and get over and do that. And then when they're not in charge, they, man, I ain't carrying all that ammo. I'm not carrying, I'm not doing this, and I'm not. Yeah. So when the peer evaluation comes, he's gone.
Were you down in Florida during the summer?
Oh, yeah. I was down
so you had the swamps and the heat?
Oh, my God. I was there in June. It would have been June when I came through Florida. It was, I mean, you're out there, there's swamp. You're living in the swamps. I'm talking about swamp. Nasty, alligator-infested swamps.
Hey, ain't too different to Savannah, Georgia, though.
Yeah. So it's nasty. But, you know, here's the thing is what they're trying to do is find out where your breaking point is. And to be a ranger, it's not how tough you are, it's how mentally tough you are. Because, you know, physically, a lot of people can do it. But then when your body is broke down and you're tired and you're wet and you're hungry, you know, what kind of a ranger are you going to be? What are you going to be when you're under the gun? And that's the part about being a ranger, is that you know that the guy next to you will not quit no matter what. He's a no matter what guy. That's the people you want to go to combat with. Right. That's the guy you want in your foxhole. The guy that's not going to quit. I had an instructor. He said, "Let me tell you something, man. If you quit on me now, you'll quit on me in combat, and you'll quit on your lady in the middle of the night. Don't be a quitter."
What kind of percentage you think goes through that? Out like your squad, 10 guys in your squad. How many?
Okay, we started out with 174. We graduated 68.
Holy cow!
Yeah, if it was easy, everybody would do it.
And that's guys who made all 174 made it through boot camp. They made it through all that stuff. They couldn't make it to the elite level.
Yeah, they couldn't make it through that. And you know, after going through that, it took me a while to realize. I'm like, man, you know, I was determined that I wasn't going to quit no matter what. They're going to have to drag my dead carcass out of here no matter what. I was going to make it. I was not going to quit. And that's a mentality you have to have, because in the Ranger Creed, it says, "I will complete the Ranger mission, though I be the lone survivor."
Wow. Now, did you guys get extra money for being a ranger? Is that an extra pay or?
Yes, it was $55 a month.
Whoa!
When I was in, and the $55 was just jump pay.
Yeah.
To be airborne, it was $55 extra a month. You know, just to buy some clean underwear when you. And then, then it went up to $110. When I got out, it was $110. So I'm thinking, like, man, we done hit the jackpot. We rich now. $110 extra a month.
Was there any final test? Was there a final something before you either got a bell rung or something? What happened then when all of a sudden people said, "Okay, you're a ranger now"?
Well, once you finish the last phase of Ranger School is the swamp, okay? And I remember this was the craziest thing, because everybody has a breaking point, believe it or not. And you will also find that you can go further than you think you can. That's what they're trying to do. The last day of Ranger School was, we had to get in these Zodiac boats. It's about 8 people in a boat. And we had to paddle out to this little island. It was called Santa Rosa Island. It was right off of Fort Walton Beach. And it's a military little island they own. So we had to go out there, and there was some bad guys out there playing bad guys, and we had all of this pyrotechnic. We was throwing, flash grenades and everything, and we attacked them, and we get back in the boat and go back across, and we had to take the boats, put them up on the head, put them up on the truck, and we were done. You graduated. That's all you had to do. So we attacked the island, we come back, and the instructor was telling us to put everything in the boat, dry it out, and this one guy flipped out. He just went ballistic. I can't do this. I quit. And the ranger instructor going, Ranger, are you sure that's what you want? He said, I quit. I'm tired of y'all, And he was just using a lot of profanity. And the ranger instructor kept asking, are you sure? He said, I'm tired of this. I quit. He quit the last day. Wow. All he had to do was carry the boat up the hill and put him on the truck. And he was done. That was it. He quit.
Wow. Wow.
I wanted to hit him in the mouth. Just to shut up.
Shut up, yeah.
But that was his breaking point.
Yeah.
That was his breaking point. I was just like, man.
So when you got that boat up on the truck, you're officially done at that point, right?
You're officially done. And they'll take you back, and they let you eat, let you sleep. They try to fatten you up before your family sees you.
So they don't know what they did to you.
I'm serious. I mean, you see those refugees and stuff like that. I'm serious. You're emaciated. You're in bad shape. I mean, my face was sunk in. I didn't realize I got back and I took a shower, and I'm looking in the mirror like, whoa, I look like I've been in a concentration camp.
Wow.
I was like,
the ride back, though, you had to be so freaking happy. The ride after you put the boat up and got in that truck, and you realized, I'm done.
I am done. That was it. And so they brought us back to the base. We got to clean up, and we got to eat like 3 meals a day. And man, you try to eat and you get sick, you're hurting. And then they fly you back to Fort Benning, and you go back. And it was kind of crazy, because when I finished Ranger School, I had called my mom to tell her, I was done, and all of this. And she said, well, your brother's at Fort Benning. I said, my brother's at Fort Benning. What is he? She said, he's in jump school down there. I'm like, what? So I got my car, drove across the base. And so we had been back. Let's see, this was from putting the boats on to seeing my brother was about a day and a half. And I hadn't fattened up yet. So I went over to the jump school, and I said, do you have a Private Ross here? And they said, yeah. And I went over, and I saw my brother. I was like, Kelly. And he looked at me like, man, he was grabbing me and he was shaking. What's wrong with you? You okay? He didn't know that I was in Ranger School.
Yeah.
He was freaked out. He thought I was had cancer or something. I was dying of some wasting disease or something.
Wow.
That was like, wow.
Now the guys who quit, they obviously they didn't go back to where you guys went. Did they just separate them and put them in a different bus and send them off to a different part of the service, or what?
Yes, you go to the regular Army. The Rangers was separate from the regular Army. You're in the Army, but you're on the same base as some regular Army people there, but they're mostly like admin people. Mm-hmm. But the Rangers, everything we do is separate from the regular Army.
Wow.
And so they'll just put you right back in the regular Army. You can go to a different infantry unit or wherever they want to go, but just can't be a Ranger.
So once you become a Ranger, what do you do then?
Well, that's when you really go to school, because what we do is we do a lot of training. We train the way we lose a lot of people in training. I mean, a lot of people, because the motto in the Rangers, when you go into this hand-to-hand pit, it says the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in combat. And we train the way we fight. A typical day in the Rangers, I'm in the regular Army, I'm in the Rangers, a typical week was Monday morning, I get up, we'll run probably 4 or 5 miles, come back, take a shower, get breakfast, start packing our gear. We do sustained airborne training before every jump. You have to go out and simulate what you're going to do on the jump. You know, you have to jump off a little 4-foot platform and do a PLF, parachute landing fall, just to make sure, you know, memorization. And then we'll pack our gear up, get a plan. We'll pack our gear at about 6 o'clock. We'll march across the airfield with all of our gear, strap on the parachute, get on the C-130, and we'll fly around for a couple of hours. And it get dark. We would jump somewhere like Taylor Creek Drop Zone in Fort Stewart. It pitch dark. We'd probably jump about 9 o'clock. Then we got to walk 12 miles with all of this gear on to the OP. It's a firing range, and we might do some night firing, or we might just get there and rack out. And we'll stay out in the woods until probably either Thursday or Friday. We'll come back in, clean our equipment up, and then we can go home. If you're married, go home, stay in the barracks, go out on the weekend. Monday, it's like rinse and repeat. So just about every Monday, we was usually jumping. I ended up with 253 parachute jumps.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then what's the as far as getting deployed? What happens with getting deployed, or where do they want to send you, or is most of the training there at your base?
No, we would do mission training. They would just call us in, give us an alert, and we'll come in and we'll pack all our gear up, just like we're actually going on a real mission. And then they would send us to like Fort Bragg. We'll parachute in at Fort Bragg and go to what they call a Mount City, look like a city, a build-up, and they have some bad guys, and we'll go shoot it out with them. Then we'll come back, do an evaluation of what we did good, what we did bad. So we was always constantly practicing on how we would actually do a mission.
Are you guys totally segregated from regular Army at that time? Or are you doing your own gigs? And so whatever the regular Army training guys are doing, you guys don't do that stuff.
Oh, no. We were totally different. The regular Army guys, they do nothing even close. See, when I was in the Rangers, most people didn't know who we were, because the Rangers was reactivated in 1974. So I got there in 77. So nobody really didn't know who we were or what we did. So we had like unlimited expense accounts. So we would come up with some stuff and like, hey, can we do this? Why not? For instance, let me give you a for instance. I'm pretty sure you heard of HALO. It's a way to get to an objective. It's high altitude, low opening. HALO, high opening, high altitude, low opening. So we would jump at like 25,000 feet, free fall, pull our parachute about 2,500 feet, and then we would, glide in on the objective. So we wanted to try this new thing. It's called HAHO, high altitude, high opening. So we would jump at 25,000 feet, open our chutes at 24, and you wear an oxygen mask because anything above 12,500 feet, there's no oxygen. So you have an oxygen mask on. So you would jump at 25,000 feet, 24,000, you pull your parachute, slide your butt in your seat, get comfortable, and you have a compass, and you have a predetermined degrees that you want to go. Say I want to go at 90 degrees. So I put a piece of luminous tape on 90 degrees. I wind the 2 arrows up as I'm flying. So I can glide for almost 40 miles. So if I jump, say I jumped in Fort Worth, well, I can land on a building in Dallas. No problem. And you do it at night, so nobody knows, somebody jump out of an airplane 40 miles away and glide all the way and land in your backyard. You would never know they were there. So we started doing this, and we wanted to see if we could do it undetected. So we chartered a 727, a commercial 727, And the reason we got a 727 is on the back of it. You probably heard about what, DB Cooper?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the 727 has a ramp that'll let down. You just have to disengage the safety on it. And it's got a ramp that will let down the stairs. And so what we would do is let that ramp down at 30,000 feet and everybody get on the back stairwell and just bail out the back of this thing, pull the parachute as soon as you get flat and stable, and everybody just get in a formation and just glide for 40 miles to the target. So we were doing crazy stuff like that. Nobody ever heard of it. Renting and we would fly on a commercial route. So the air traffic controllers, they never would see us. They would see the plane. They think it's on a regular route. And then we would jump out. They couldn't detect us jumping out of the plane. So that's
how DB Cooper got away. Then he probably had a little Ranger School training. And
there you go.
Wow.
There you go.
The Grenada, you were deployed in Grenada, right? Were you deployed any other time before that? Was there anything before that, or was that your first, I guess, combat experience?
No, you heard about the Iran rescue mission?
Yes, that was before that, right?
Yes, that was before. Yeah, and it failed. Jimmy Carter was the president.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was
I remember that. Yeah.
Okay, so it failed. It wasn't my fault. Okay.
Okay. Well, hopefully John wasn't blaming you. I know I wasn't. So.
No, it was a pretty elaborate plan that had too many hands in the cookie jar, because you have to think after Vietnam, there was not really anything that really tested the military. So if there was an operation come up like that Desert One out there in the desert of Iran, was that the Marines want to get in on it, the Navy want to get in on it, the Air Force, everybody wants to get in on it. So they say, yeah, we did this and we did that. But here you are, you got Army pilots flying Navy helicopters. And it was all just mixed up because everybody wanted to get their hand in the cookie jar. And the plan was too elaborate. And we got out there in the desert. And what we do is wear these night vision goggles. The pilots, they would fly in, land in the desert. And we had these little helicopters that we could put in the back of an airplane. We call them little birds. And we push them out, put the blades up on them, and they had little pods on the side, and you sit down on the side, and the pilot is right here. And he picks up, and you go, and we're going to land, at the embassy in Tehran and get the hostages out. Well, when the plane landed, the pilots are wearing these night vision goggles, and the CCT, that's the ground controllers, they have these red filter flashlights. It's flashlights that have a red filter on it, what you guide the airplanes with. Okay, but they're infrared, so you can't see it with your naked eye. But you turn on the infrared, it looks like bright lights. So the guy's moving the airplane, and it runs into a helicopter.
Wow.
And the helicopter blows up, and now everybody's starting to panic. And you had some rear admiral who should have never been in charge of any kind of Rangers. We learned from that, okay, let's get the bodies out. No, we got to go. So ended up leaving the bodies in the plane. And next thing you know, we get back home, they dragging the burnt bodies through the streets of Tehran.
And you were on the plane?
Yes.
So you were on the plane that the guy directed you guys?
No, I wasn't on that plane. I was on the plane, getting there. By this time, we got all of our equipment out, and we getting ready to go. We getting ready to go to downtown Tehran to get the hostage.
Oh, you're in the desert.
Yes.
And so this was a different area that they were when this blew up. Then they called you guys and said, "Come back."
We hadn't left yet. Like, as soon as the plane land, we get the helicopters out of the back. Once we get the helicopters out of the back, they moved the airplanes over out of the way. So we over here getting the helicopters ready to go. When the explosion happened, the airplane runs into another helicopter and blows up.
Wow.
Make sense to you? Yeah.
Wow.
So that's what happened. So we over here getting ready. We're probably
now were you in Iran getting ready?
Oh yeah.
So you guys were in Iran ready to storm the embassy.
Yeah, we was about 75 miles outside of Tehran, Iran.
And that's where all this happened with the plane and the helicopters and all that stuff.
Yeah, because we had snuck in under the radar. You know, we fly down through the valleys. It's called Map the Earth. You fly about 50 feet over the earth under the radar, and then we landed out in the desert.
So when that blew up, what happened? That when they said, everybody get out of here?
Yeah, they called what they call an op skid. You know, we have a code that they would announce, like they said, 909er, that means abort the mission. And everybody like, okay, well, let's get the people, let's get the bodies out here, and everybody panicked. No, we gotta go. So we just loaded up and left.
Was it because of the noise of the explosion? Was that why you guys had to leave so quick?
No, it was because the people, whoever was in charge, like if you got a guy that's one-star general and he's afraid he's going to be blamed for it, and he gets his boxers in a bundle and gets scared, and we could have still went and did the mission. With
you
75,
you think you still could have rescued the hospital?
Oh yeah, oh yes.
Really?
Yeah.
So because he just, when that helicopter and plane blew up, he just got scared and said, "Everybody get out of here."
They panicked.
Yeah, yeah. See, you know, a Ranger, we got a mission. We're going to complete that mission, whatever it is. And we still had enough equipment to go do what we had to do. You have to understand that these were not soldiers that was guarding these hostages. They was militant. They was students. Right. And we had video of them. We had sent people up to the guard, to the gates. And like one guy had a cast on his arm, but he had a camera in there, and asking the guy about the AK-47. He didn't even know how to operate it. So they didn't have a chance against us. They were just militant students, and They wasn't soldiers. And then we knew where all the hostages were. We knew which rooms they were in. We had built a mock-up of the embassy, and we had trained on it. So they wouldn't have had a chance.
So when the explosion happened, the higher ups, they panicked, but the troops on the ground, they still completed the mission.
Yes, still ready to go.
How did they break that to you guys? We got to pull back, it's a complete pullback, abort, or what?
They just called it abort. They just called it abort, and we just had to jump back in the airplanes and get out of there.
How long had you trained for that mission there?
About a month and a half.
Wow.
And so the plane and helicopter that blew up, it wasn't because the explosion alerted the enemy or anything like that. It was just because equipment was damaged, and the guy who made the decision thought we don't have enough equipment, or he's scared and panicked and said, let's just get out of here.
Yeah, he was scared. He was scared. We still had enough equipment. So we lost one C-130 and one, it's a big helicopter. It's called a HH-53 Jolly Green Giant. It was one of those. So we still had enough equipment to go do what we had to do.
And rescue all the hostages and all that.
Yeah. But instead, you know, what really chapped my hide was we just didn't get the bodies out there. And you see them dragging those burnt bodies through the streets of Tehran. That really just,
knowing you were that close.
Because the thing is as an Army Ranger, it said, never shall I leave a fallen comrade to fall in the hands of the enemy. We don't do that. We take our dead with us.
Wow. You and all your buddies had to, at some point, I know you don't speak up because of, chain of command and respect, but you guys had to be pretty upset about this.
Yeah, because it wasn't our people that was running the show. I mean, when you doing a joint operation like that, whoever the highest ranking, which at this time was a Navy admiral or something, whoever he was, and he was the highest ranking. And from then on, we learned that nobody is in charge of the Rangers but the Rangers. We got our mission. We're going to do our mission. Regardless of what y'all do, we're going to do, as Ray Charles used to say, we'll make it do what it do.
And that was a big factor in Jimmy Carter not getting reelected.
Huge.
Exactly.
The economy had a big part of it too. You had the whole 70s malaise of the economy and inflation stuff, but a big part of it was that what happened in Tehran or right outside of Tehran.
Yeah, that was a big part. Because if you think about it, if that mission would have been successful, and him being able to stand there and produce these 53 hostages, brought them back, and he pulled the trigger on it, just like Obama when he, turned the Navy SEALs loose, let them get Osama bin Laden. I mean, that's points right there.
It sure is, because that is and listen, I'm 100% behind President Obama for doing it, but that is a huge violation of every international law there is. It is. You're violating sovereign countries. You're doing. I am 100% behind him for doing it. By the way.
Oh
but
yes,
that takes guts to do that, because that if that goes south, bro, that kills your presidency.
I remember when that happened. My wife asked me, she said, "Do you think that was Army Rangers?" I'm like, "Nope." She said, "Why not?" I said, "Too many buildings are still standing."
Hey, Ranger, you'll love it. President Obama golfs the golf course that I golf. He probably golfs at a lot of them, but Bethesda Country Club right near here, I see him a lot. And one time I saw him out there, he had like a 3 or 4 foot putt, and his guys didn't give it to him. And I thought they must be playing for money, and he missed it. And he didn't say a word. Nobody else said a word. He just kind of picked it up. You can tell he was frustrated because obviously they're playing for a little bit of money or something. You know how guys do. And I'm sitting there going, the guy killed bin Laden. Give him the putt. What are you doing?
Oh my God. Yeah, I guess when money is on the table, hey.
That's right. They don't care what he did. That was probably you never how guys are. It's probably $10. You never know.
That's too funny.
So after Tehran, what the next big combat was Grenada, right? Or was it?
Yes. Yeah, it was Grenada. That was in '83, and that was on a Ronald Reagan. Oh, love that guy. Whoa, man, where's Ronald Reagan when we need him?
You ain't kidding. If ever we needed a run-in, it was that presidential debate.
Oh, that was horrible. Listen, I'm going to tell you something. I don't want to get into politics, but I'm going to tell you something. I was sad and I was angry at the same time. I felt bad for Joe Biden. I promise you, I felt bad for him. Then I got angry because I'm like, his family knew that what kind of shape he was in, and they put him out there like that. And then I'm angry because our enemy sees this. They looking at this. That's showing how weak we are. And I'm like, oh, and right now, our enemy, they're so emboldened now. They do just about anything they want to.
You're right, they are. And
then
that's like the difference. That's like the difference you mentioned with Jimmy Carter. He was perceived weak because of this. It wasn't his decision in theater to make that decision, but he was perceived weak because of that. Reagan was perceived strong because he would come in and he perceived that strength. So it makes a big difference to people overseas how the president is perceived.
And the thing about it too, Reagan was so protected by his people that jumped up and protected when Reagan would make these mistakes. Nobody was jumping up and protecting, like you said, his wife, his family. Nobody jumped up and protected Biden on this thing. It's just kind of disappointing.
And then I'm feeling sorry for my Ranger buddies that are in now, because you have to understand, he is the commander in chief.
Yeah,
that means that these Rangers were sitting there ready to spearhead World War III if needed, and then you got him as your leader. And my heart I was like, man, now I'm angry. I went from feeling sad for him to just plain angry for all of the guys that are in the military, all of our service people, and you got him as your commander in chief. That That is not a good look.
Yep, I agree completely, and I'm no fan of the other guy either. But to have a guy in there that has obviously cognitive diminished capabilities,
that's my point.
That's you can't do that. You owe your country more than that. You owe him more than that. He's been a good public servant. At this time, you need to tell him, it's time for you to step aside for the sake of the country, and then let another Democrat run against, former President Trump, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, yeah. I'm telling you, when Ronald Reagan was our commander in chief, brother, the morale was high. It was high because we knew that if he sent us, we're going to go and give it everything we got. And, it was just that confidence of Ronald Reagan. Man, I mean, I was ready to go eat somebody's guts, and that's, that's for seconds. I was ready, But with this, I'm just thinking about my buddies. Oh,
so tell us about Grenada. What happened? How that mission came about?
Well,
because that was something, even today, a lot of Americans really aren't even aware of Grenada. What happened?
Which, by the way, Jerry, the Grenada celebrates it as their Thanksgiving Day. They love what the Rangers did.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was just in Grenada 3 weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you tell them they owe you a free lunch and free drinks because you're the one that liberated them?
Well, actually, I'm starting a helicopter touring company there.
Are you? Cool.
Good for you.
Our first flight is October the 25th, is the day that we parachuted in.
That's great.
Our first flight. Yeah. So I was down there and 3 weeks ago to meet with all of the government officials because right now they have, if you came in on a ship, a cruise ship, or you came directly, on the airplane, and you want to tour the island, the only way you could tour the island is in a car, or you can get on a catamaran boat, and they'll take you up the coast and back down. So they have no helicopter tours, and also, and I'm sitting there looking at the need. If there's a medical emergency, to get from one side of the island to the other one and back, it's about 3 hours, 3.5 hour round trip. So I'm trying to partner with the government right now that I would also provide emergency medical service for them also.
Right.
Well, so that's the reason I was down there doing that. And so thank God I hadn't shipped my helicopters down there yet, because there's a hurricane right on top of them right now as we speak.
Yeah, I saw that. The first one.
Yeah.
Beryl.
Yeah. So I called yesterday and talked to one of my buddies down there, and I said, man, you guys need to button up the hatches. He said he was leaving his house and going on the other side of the island because he didn't think his house could withstand it. I was like, wow, that's straight. But anyway, what happened in Grenada was in 1979, the president of Grenada came to the United States for a meeting at the UN. And while he was here, the Grenadian Revolution took over. They overthrew the government, and they took all of the cabinet members, the congressmen, senators, and they put them all in prison. So they was in prison for 4 years. 4 years, from 79 to 83. And what happened in 83, well, first of all, the guy that was the leader, his name was Maurice Bishop. So he appointed himself dictator. And then he got with Fidel Castro. Fidel Castro was his mentor, teaching him how to be an up-and-coming dictator. And so him and Fidel Castro get together, and they've been backed by the Soviet Union, because the Soviet Union is backing Fidel Castro. So they build this new runway down there at Point Salinas. And it's not just an ordinary runway. It's called a Class B runway. It's about 10,000 feet long, which you can land any aircraft in the world, including the space shuttle, on this thing. And they said they was building it for tourism. Well, you don't need a runway that long for tourism. And they started bringing these Soviet tanks in, Soviet equipment. And so all of this is going on, and they have brought all these Cubans in. And all of this is going on. And in the meantime, there's a medical school there, St. George Medical University. And there's like 750 American students there. So after 4 years, this other guy, is named Bernard Cord, he wants to be the dictator now. So now they start fighting each other. So the revolution and the other revolution, they fighting each other, and they started killing civilians on the street. And they took Maurice Bishop, who was the dictator, and they put him on the house arrest. And then people came and got him out of the house arrest, and they ended up shooting him in the courtyard, executed him. And so now they implemented martial law. And Ronald Reagan was afraid that they're going to start using those Americans as hostages, as pawns. And so, pretty ingenious idea, I'm going to tell you this little tidbit here, is that they had a radio station, it's called Radio Free Grenada, and every song they played had the word help in it. Pretty ingenious, isn't it?
Yeah.
Every song they played had the word help in it.
Wow.
And all of the other Eastern Caribbean islands, because you got Barbados and you got St. Lucia and all of them, they're afraid now, because if the Cuban and the Russian take over this island, they're afraid they're going to come and take their island too. So they was begging Reagan to do something. And he said, well, here we go. Well, anyway, that's my Reagan impression.
Pretty good one, too.
Anyway, so we formulated a plan. They called us in and said, hey, look, we're going to Grenada. This was right after they bombed the Marine barracks in Beirut the day before.
Right.
And so when they called us in on alert, everybody's like, oh, boy, the Rangers are going to Beirut. So we packed up our gear, and everybody could see we was on alert, and we getting ready to go somewhere. And they said, we're going to Grenada. And everybody going, where? Grenada? Where's that at? And they gave us these maps. They was like tourist maps. But the good thing about it was they gave us the tourist map, but we had some spy planes that flew over, taking pictures of the island. And so we was able to take the satellite photos and overlay them on the regular tourist map. So we, knew where everything was at. So they told us we was going in, and the plan was for us to come in and jump at 500 feet, which has never been done. Lowest jump in military history. The reason being, they had these anti-aircraft guns up on the hill, and they figured that if they traverse down like this, we could fly under them at 500 feet and would get shot. So the plan was for the Navy SEALs, they're going to drop them off out in the ocean. They're going to swim up to the runway, and they would have eyes on the runway for us. So we take off from Savannah, and we fly in about 4 hours, 5 hours. We were supposed to jump at 5:30. Well, we get in there and we get the radio report. The Navy SEALs got compromised. Some of them swam up on the shore, and they got shot up, compromised, and they tried to swim back out in the ocean. Several of them drowned. Some of them got dropped off out in the ocean, and the rip current, everything went south. So we're getting all of these updates as we're flying in. So they put us in an orbit, just circling around out over the ocean for about an hour and a half. And we're getting all these reports of Navy SEALs, it's lost people. And then they said, we're going in. And so we came across, and as soon as that plane pulled up, bullets start hitting the side of the plane that I'm on. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, my mom and daddy going to get a letter from the government saying that I died in a plane crash and I had a parachute on my back. And my parents, the first thing they would say is, why didn't he jump? That would have been the first thing come out. Well, why didn't he jump? So anyway, we pull up and bullets start hitting the side of this plane. And I'm like, just let me get out of this plane. If I can get 3 of them, it'll be worth my life. Just let me get 3. That's all I want. And we pulled up, and I was the fifth person actually to parachute in on the island. And so we come across that runway, and the bullets hit the side of the plane. I jumped out. I fell out of the airplane because at this time I'm carrying 105 pounds of my equipment. I had 105 pounds. So when I went to the door to jump out, I just kind of fell out of the airplane. So my parachute was open, but it was twisted all the way up. It was open, but it was twisted from here all the way up. So you grab it and you pull like this and you kick your feet and you spin around. So when I jump and the parachute all twisted up and I get it loose and I'm looking, green and red tracers are just flying by. They're shooting at us. And now the bullets could have been 10 yards, 100 yards. I don't know because you don't have any depth perception. So I don't know how close the bullets were. But I'm going to tell you, the first thing I did when I saw those green and red tracers, just like any red-blooded American would do, I grabbed my head.
I don't blame you, bro.
I grabbed my head and said, oh, my God. And then when I looked, here come the runways coming up at me. I'm getting ready to hit the ground. Yeah. And I pour my rucksack and it hit the ground. I hit the runway so hard, I thought I broke my hip, my legs, and everything. And as soon as I hit the ground, bullets was hitting all around me. So I crawled up behind this. It was probably about 20 yards away. They knew he was coming, so they parked dump trucks, steamrollers, and everything on the runway, so we couldn't land on it. And there was this asphalt spreader. If you can see when they paving a road, the truck would back up and dump the asphalt in this thing, and it would spread it out. Well, that was one about 20 yards from me. And I just ran and dragging my parachute, dragging my rucksack, and I get behind this thing. So I'm going to try to give you a picture here. The runway, it's almost to the end of the island, right there. If you don't make the runway, you're going to hit the ocean. Okay, so the runway's going this way. The ocean is in front of me. Behind me is a hill, and the enemy is up on the hill shooting down at me, and I'm behind this asphalt spreader. And I'm behind it, and bullets are hitting the back of that thing. Bing, bing, bullets are. I was like, man, they got a bead on me. I grab my parachute, and I pull it over my rucksack, and I'm starting to get out of the harness. I got to do all these quick release and get it out. My M16 is strapped from under my arm, strapped down to my leg. I untie it and get it out, and I lock and load. And I'm ready to go Scarface on them now. Okay, you want to play rough? I'll play rough. Say hello to my little friend. But it didn't quite go like that. But I get my M16 out and I lock and load, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the ocean right in front of me. Ocean all the way down this way and all the way this way. And I look back out this way, and all 6 of the other airplanes, they turn around. They're going back out over the ocean. Now, there's only 34 people on my airplane.
Wow.
All of us got out, and these guys up on the hill shooting down, and the rest of my buddies turning around. I've never felt that lonely in my life. I was like, whoa, what? So I grabbed my radio, and I screwed the antenna on it, and I call up, hey, give me a sit rep, situation report. And they said, be advised, we're taking on too much anti-aircraft gun. Gonna have to take out gun position 1 and 2. And I'm looking. The runway is about 50 yards wide. And then there's a hill that goes up. And all the bad guys are up on the hill shooting at me. It's like, oh, okay, here we go. So I get all my stuff out and I grab a couple of guys. There's a couple of guys down here. Y'all get down here, come on. So they come down. I'm the sergeant. I'm the old guy. I'm 24.
Wow.
I'm a sergeant. I'm a platoon sergeant. I'm the highest rank. Y'all, come here. So look, we're not going to get any reinforcement until we take out this gun position. All right, just drop your rucksacks here and grab all the frag and all the ammo you can carry. We got to get up this hill. We got to take out this gun. They go, okay, Sergeant. So we drop all over the side. So listen, best thing for us to do is just all get up, run across this runway, get it to the other side as fast as you can, and we'll fight our way up the hill. So we all get down behind this thing. You ready? Let's go. We just jumped up, start running across this runway, wide open. And it's a big area, you know. So we make it to the other side, and there's a little ditch. We get down in the little, hey, you guys all right? Yeah, yes. All right, spread out, spread out. And so I'm telling the first guy over here, all right, go ahead and move out. And before I got it out of my mouth, he just jumped up and started running. So I had to jump up and just start shooting to keep their head down. I said, okay, all right, you move out. So I'm ready now. And I cover me. And so we get up this hill, and there's a CPU-4. It's a gun, and an aircraft gun with 4 barrels on it, like this. And we get up there, we get the best of them. So they jump off of the gun, and they run into this little building. And I grab a grenade, and I throw it, and it hit the side of the building. Now, it doesn't do like in the movie, a big fireball and blow the buildings all. It made some noise, and a couple of splinters came off the building. But it made enough racket that these guys just come running out. 3 of them just come running out this way. And this guy over here, I think he was 19, he just shot 3 of them, just mowed them down. 2 come running out this way. I shoot one. This kid over here shoots the other guy in the hip. I think it like in the hip, and it knocked him down. And the guy kept trying to get up and stumble. And this guy just walks up to him, 18 years old, and just kept, I'm like, oh my God, I got John Wayne and Audie Murphy. I'm looking at them like, and they had no expression on their face.
And these are kids, man.
I was like, man, like, what y'all want me to do? So, I mean, John Wayne and Audie Murphy couldn't have done this. I'm wow. And so we cleared the building. Once we cleared the building, we were going to secure the area. I heard the loudest explosion I've ever heard in my life. I thought it was a nuclear bomb. Boom, and we all hit the ground. And we was down, and it rattled my insides. It was so loud. And I was like, my God, what was that? And I looked up, and there was an AC-130, a C-130. It's a gunship. It's got a big old 105 howitzer sticking out the side. And it shot the other gun that was down probably another 100 yards from us. It shot it, just blew it to pieces. But 100 yards away, it was so, the concussion, I'm serious, it knocked my liver over to one side. I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. And then by that time, we get down the hill, the rest of the airplanes coming over, starting to drop everybody else out. And I was like, oh my goodness, that was, yeah.
Wow. What a story.
Yeah.
Now we got to fight all the way up the runway because the rest of the guys are coming. We got to clear all of this stuff off the runway. The Army.
How many guys you got in your lineup now?
Well, it was 34 of us at first, and now with the rest of them coming, we're talking about another 300-400. Mm-hmm. So when they started jumping, there was still some fire going on. People still shooting at them because there was still some, a lot of Cubans up on the next hill shooting at them. So we had to get down the runway. We had to straight wire, these steamrollers and trucks to get them off of the runway. And then we got to fight all the way up another 1.5 miles up the runway to get to the medical students. Right at the end of the runway is the medical university. So we got to get there and get those students before the Grenadians and the Cubans take them as hostage. So we fighting all the way up the runway because they shooting at us all the way up the runway. We had to fight for another 1.5 miles to get to the students up there. And then we finally get there and go and kick in the door, and all the students, they hiding in closets, under cabinets, everywhere. And we're like, hey, we're Army Rangers. We're like, oh, and they come out of everywhere. They was crying, hugging us. And then we got wounded, and like, can y'all take care of him? Well, we're like first, second year medical students. We don't.
It don't matter.
So we start bringing them in, and they start getting into it. They start helping us out. You know, it was pretty cool though. And the most ironic thing that happened about 3 years ago, it was in Grenada, standing in the ocean, about waist deep, and this American guy come out, and my buddy from Canada, we usually coordinate. Me and his wife and my wife, we always coordinate, to go to Grenada about the same time. And we standing out there, and this American guy come walking out in the ocean, and my buddy go, "Hey, is your first time to Grenada?" He said, "No, I've been here quite a few times." And he said, "Well, this is my third time." He said, "This guy here, this is his third time." He said, "But the first time he came, he parachuted in on the island, parachuted on the runway over there." He said he was an Army Ranger, and the guy stopped and he looked at me. He said, "I got one better than that." He said, "You rescued me."
Wow.
I'm like, "What?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I was a medical student here." He said, "I'm Dr. Eric Johnson."
Wow.
He comes to Grenada every year to do selected surgery. He bring a group of people with him, and man, that guy grabbed me. He hugged me. He cried, and he wouldn't let me buy anything. Me and my wife could not buy anything the rest of our tour down there, our vacation. He took us everywhere.
What a wonderful story. Wow.
How does this happen? It's like, wow.
So exactly, I mean, it's just amazing that you're just on different sides of history here. In Tehran, you have a bad decision by a commander who was the commander who probably shouldn't have been commander. There, you have a bunch of heroism that is, unheard of, and different side of history.
Well, the thing is that we learned from the mistakes we made in Tehran, that nobody's going to be in charge of Rangers except for Rangers. And we learned another mistake in Grenada, that we had, that our Army people could not talk to the Air Force pilots. So that was a big communication problem. We could see where the enemies are, and we see the A-10s and the F-4s and all of that stuff, and we can't talk to them.
You guys could communicate with the
No.
FARC? Wow.
No. So what we did, we learned from that.
Well, why is that? Why was the communication down?
Because our frequencies are different radio frequency. They use like aviation frequencies, and we use so many different. We use one to use megahertz, one use kilohertz. And so now it's totally different now. But that was one of the mistakes we learned from Grenada. Wow. Yeah. That, able to communicate.
Are you still friendly? I suppose you're still friendly with the doctor that took care of you the second time?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. He's a surgeon up in Buffalo, New York.
Wow.
Yeah. He goes down there every year and do a selective surgery. As a matter of fact, he was buying a house down there. He loves it down there.
And what I was reading online was about how they call it Thanksgiving Day. The days you guys, the days that you were there, Grenada still celebrates that to this day. That day as their Great Liberation Day.
October the 25th. That's the day is going to be the first flight of our helicopter touring company. October the 25th. So the plan is.
So what are you going as, Christopher Columbus or what?
Well, I kind of got some angst about that too with Christopher Columbus. Said that he discovered America and all these Native Americans running around.
I was going to call BS on that too. Thanksgiving is one of my least celebrated holidays.
Yeah, you pull up and I'm sitting in my car and you go, "Oh, I discovered this car." No, I'm sitting in it. How can you
Yeah. The story of Columbus's fourth voyage is on like a Netflix or Amazon or something like that. It's great. It's awesome. It's really good. He believed there was a passageway like the Panama Canal that existed, before it was built, that got to the other ocean, got over to the Pacific Ocean. obviously there wasn't one, but he thought there was. But he was so hated that it was in a hurricane in the Dominican Republic, which was, I guess, Espanola back then, and they would not let him dock, even despite the fact that he's probably going to get killed and lose his entire crew. He ended up either in Cayman or Jamaica for a year trying to get back. He was that hated by the place that he discovered.
Yeah, he discovered. Yeah.
I tell Mr. Briscoe all the time that he should be glad that Christopher Columbus discovered him.
Yeah. Yeah, brought me all you guys. Yeah, we should have built a wall, but we should have built it 250 years ago.
That's right. The natives should have built the wall to keep Columbus out.
Yeah, they should have. That would have been.
See, right now, Ranger, I think we should build a wall, but between Texas and Oklahoma to keep the Oklahomans out of Texas.
I go for that too.
And we'll get the Okies to pay for it.
Man, I remember watching this documentary about Brian Boswell.
Yeah,
played football for Oklahoma.
The Balls, yeah.
He was from Texas, and he went to Oklahoma instead of going to Texas. Boy, that's a feud there. That's like the Hatfield and McCoy, Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah, he was a pretty good ball player until he ran head on into Bo.
Oh,
yeah.
Bo gave him a free ride, didn't he?
Yeah, he sure did.
Bo was looking
about
for
a 50-yard ride.
Yeah.
Wow. But I got a chance to spend some time with Danny Hodge. Oh my God.
Oh, what a wonderful guy, huh?
What a wonderful, wonderful guy, man. Love that guy, man. Yeah. Wow. You ever met Danny Hodge?
Oh, yeah, did I? Oh, yeah, I traveled with Danny. Danny was my hero. Danny's really one that inspired me to get into professional wrestling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he grew up just a few miles from where I did, so he was always a big hero to me. Even when I remember back Danny Hodge when I was 6, 7 years old, you know. So when I first started wrestling, he was already a hero there in Oklahoma.
Did you meet him before, John?
Yeah, John got a great story about it. First time encounter with Danny Hodge. He got one of those rib massages.
Oh, did I ever?
Tell him the story, John.
My elbow so bad I couldn't work out.
John being a typical wise ass Texan got called in for this.
So Ranger, you'll love this. We were in Oklahoma. We had a day off. And so me and Barry Windham go around Oklahoma and we take a picture at Stillwater at Blackwell, Mr. Briscoe's hometown and his working hometown and the state sign. And back before he had cell phone cameras, we took Polaroids and it was of me going to the bathroom on their city limit sides. So the next day we're in Oklahoma, to wrestle. So I put all these pictures up in catering of me going to the bathroom on Briscoe's hometown on the state sign and all this stuff. I'm so proud of myself. No, I'm sitting there just waiting. Can't wait for this thing to happen. And my tooth just fell out. Look at that.
Oh,
it fell out again. So I'm sitting there. I can't wait for Briscoe to get there. And so when I see him start walking in, and in walks Danny Hodge and Jack Briscoe with him.
Oh, snap.
And I look at it and go, oh, my goodness. And I start looking around. There's not a back door. There's no way to get out of this place. And Danny Hodge and Jack Briscoe look at the board and just start looking at it. And I'm like, oh, no. So I I try to get out. And Danny grabs me and goes, it's a pleasure to see you. And he shakes my hand and he squeezes my elbow and he starts squeezing it so bad that he screwed up my elbow. I literally could not work out for about 3 months. I thought he broke my arm.
Oh my God. That wasn't a window you could have climbed out of?
If there was, I'd have jumped at it.
And I damn sure wasn't going to give him any break either.
That's not nice, Mr. Briscoe. Oh yeah, he got me good. And I saw him at the Fez Museum up in Iowa. And the same thing, he wanted to shake my hand. I'm just looking at him like, oh, please don't do this again. Please.
Danny had it. You probably got it, Ranger, where he grabbed your hand at the same time grabbed your elbow.
Oh yeah,
You're not
Yeah.
escaping, and you try
you're
to
not
pull.
going anywhere.
You
No,
try
But he
to
had that
pull,
grip on my elbow, and literally, I'm on my knees at one point apologizing, and I'm like, "You got to be kidding
with
me!"
these two fingers right here, he can with on your elbow, he can bring you to your knees, as everybody knows.
Yeah, it was a
I,
big
I
mistake.
was I was at the um, Gulf Coast Wrestling reunion, and I was up talking about something, and I'm going to tell y'all, about the time I got behind Danny Hodge, and I took him for everything he was worth. And everybody like, what? I said, yeah, I got him behind him. I pickpocketed him. Took him for everything he was worth.
Ran like hell. Well, speaking of Hodge, how did you go from Grenada, being a war hero? And I know you don't like that term, but being a hero in Grenada, what was the next step of you getting out of the army and man, I'm finally going to chase my dream.
I had one more adventure after that.
Okay, well, let's hear it.
El Salvador.
Oh wow.
Which we wasn't technically down there. We were sent down there as advisors, and to train the Contras, the Contras against the Sandinistas, and we would train them, and we would take them out. They said, "Okay, we want to take them out on a exercise, down through here." Go about 10 miles. Be advised that there's some Sandinistas down there. So if you run into them, if they shoot at you, shoot at, anyway, the rules of engagement. So we go down they knew where they were at, and they would send me down there with these guys, and we'd get in a firefight. Really? And this kept going on. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. If y'all want to fight, let me get the rest of these Rangers down here, and we can straighten this out real quick, fast, and in a hurry. But they didn't want to. I'm going to tell you what the deal was. I remember on this little base, they had we call them spooks. The CIA, yeah, we call them spooks. Anyway, so they're on the base, and we're out in the town, and this guy who was a known sympathizer with the Sandinista, he's over there, and I see one of these spooks over there talking to him, and I see him slide him an envelope. And the guy, you could see him looking in it, and you could tell what's in it. It's money. So I'm like, wait a minute. Now, I done lost several guys down here. I mean, I've had guys that got killed down here, and they don't list them as killed in action. They would list them as training exercise accidents or something. So we go back. I said, dude, what are you doing? That's a known G-man. We call them guerrillas, G-man. He said, well, you don't understand. No, I don't understand. So I went back and told him, say, look, if we're going to fight, let's fight. If we're going to just sit here and mess around, y'all can get me out of here. I'm done with this. So you probably heard of Oliver North, right?
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, but he would come down, the nicest guy you'll ever meet, man. Cool guy. But I didn't know what was going on until after I got out. When I got out, I seen Oliver North. He was at a Senate hearing, and they was questioning him about all of this stuff that was going on. What they was doing was they was trading arms for hostages in Iran, and they was funneling the money through El Salvador. That's what was called the Iran-Contra. They was trading arms to get hostages out of, and they would, long as this little war was going on down there between the Contras and the Sandinistas, the Congress, they can appropriate money to go down there. So it's like a slush fund. It's kind of like a slush fund. As long as you buying the good guy beans and bullets and the bad guy beans and bullets, you can keep this going on while, how the magician watches his hand over here, and I got this hand in my pocket. That was what was going on. But I didn't realize that until after I got out. And I was like, Oh my goodness. So they got me down there training, supposedly training these people that don't want to fight while they appropriate money to buy arms to trade the arms for hostages in Iran. Like, what? I'm like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And they only listed those 8 people that was killed in El Salvador as killed in action in 1996.
Wow.
It took them all of this time, almost 12 years before they actually listed them as killed in action.
So they kept a war going down there in El Salvador so they could fund the arms to get the arms to Iran to get the hostages back.
Yes.
And they're basically playing both sides in El Salvador so that the war would keep going on. People are getting killed so that they can fund something else in something else part of the world because they don't care about what's going on in El Salvador.
Exactly. That's why it was called the Iran-Contra scandal. And I'm sitting there watching Oliver North, and they had these maps up and showing all of this stuff was going on. I was like, I had no idea what was going on the time I was down there. I had no idea. And I'm like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And I remember, if you ever watched that, go back and watch that Senate hearing with Oliver North. They was questioning him about he had spent $15,000 on a security system for his house. And they like, well, why did you spend all this money on the security system for your house? He said, there's a guy named Osama bin Laden who wants to kill me. He's trying to kill me. They like, he said, Osama bin Laden. They're like, we never heard of him. So that's the first time you ever hear Osama bin Laden is at that Senate hearing, Oliver North.
Wow.
Did you know that, John?
I didn't know that. I didn't know that he was the first one to mention Osama bin Laden.
This was 1986. 1986. He's the first one that ever mentioned Osama bin Laden. That was why he bought that security system for his house, because Osama bin Laden wanted to kill him.
Wow.
And these people
you're down there literally fighting for your life, and they're playing both sides.
They're playing games.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're playing both sides. You're on one side, they're on the other. The government's playing both sides. Whatever happens as far as casualties, they really don't care because that's just collateral damage. That doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Wow. That's why that's why people say, the government is just corrupt now. Just now.
Now you're finding that out.
Yeah. And then the thing is they trying to make this guy Oliver North the scapegoat. Okay. He is the lowest ranking in the Pentagon. He's a lieutenant colonel. He's about as low as a private in the headquarters company. A lieutenant colonel in the Pentagon, he's a nobody. And they trying to like he did all of this. Really? Him? Yeah, a lieutenant colonel can do all of that. I was born at night, but it wasn't last night.
Yeah, and he was just the perfect fall guy. He was a stand-up guy.
Oh yeah.
He sat there and he did his duty. He took the blame. He took the heat for a bit of it.
He took the bullet. Yeah, he took the
bullet. Didn't stooge anybody. Just company guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So after that, that's when I'm like, okay, it's time for me to.
How many years was in total was you a Ranger? You're a Ranger all your life, but
8 years.
8 years.
8. I did 8.
That's what, 2 enlistments?
Yes, both 2 4-year enlistment. But here's the thing: is that as long as I was in the Rangers, we trained so much I couldn't gain weight, couldn't work out like I wanted to. So the last 4 months, I got an office job in a headquarters company. So I didn't have to go to the field. I didn't have to jump out of airplanes. I just, go do an 8-hour job in an office, go work out, twice a day or whatever I wanted to do. And that's when I really start training. And
let me jump in there. So your 8 years was basically, your home base was basically still at home then, right?
It was in Savannah.
Savannah. That's what I was stationed at. Around home, yeah.
Yeah, I was stationed in Savannah. So once I you know, left the Rangers, went to the office job for about 4 months. I got to train, got to work out, and they was having wrestling at the Civic Center again. This would have been 1985, 1985. And I went down to the Civic Center. I was like, okay, I got to talk to somebody. How am I going to get in there? So I go to the Civic Center and I'm sitting in the stands and I see Blackjack Mulligan and Manny Fernandez. So I go down and I'm talking to them, and they said, well, you probably need to talk to him. He was talking about Pez Watley. So Pez came over and I said, Pez, look, I said, here's the deal. I'm getting ready to get out of the Army. I want to wrestle. I said, how can I get into this? He said, well, he said, there's a guy, he lives in Atlanta, and he was talking about starting a wrestling school. He said, this is where you can find him at. He owns a shoe store. His name is Thunderbolt Patterson. He said, his shoe store's in College Park, told me the name of it and everything. So I said, okay. So, after the wrestling match, I came up to Atlanta because I'm actually from the town. The town I was raised in is about 5 miles from here. It's called Ackworth. That's my hometown. I live in Kennesaw now. So it's about, the towns border each other. So anyway, I came home and I went down to Atlanta to this store and I met Thunderbolt Patterson. I told him, I said, look, I had on my uniform. I said, look, I'm getting ready to get out. And I said, I want to wrestle. And Pez told me that you was going to open a wrestling school. He said, yeah, I've been thinking about it. I said, well, is there any chance you could train me? He said, yeah. He said, I'll tell you what. He said, come back such and such time. I said, okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to take my 30-day vacation because I had 30 days vacation saved up. So I came back, said, okay, I'm here. So Thunderbolt trained me. We trained, and he had a shoe store. In the back of the shoe store, he had a big storage room, and he just put some mats down, and we trained. I trained with him for a whole month. And I went back to the Army after my 30 days. I went back, and I had to make a decision. I got 8 years in. Do I stay in or do I get out? This is what I want to do. I'm at a point now where I got to either sink or swim. So I decided I was going to go ahead and get out. So I got out and I came back. I trained with Thunderbolt about another couple of weeks, and he had to have hip replacement. And I went and he was telling me some of the places that I could, try to contact people. And I went, when I got out of the Army, I moved back up here. So I went to wrestling match at the Omni in Atlanta, and I met with David Crockett. He was down on the floor, and I went and told him, I wanted to wrestle. I've been trained by Thunderbolt Patterson. He introduced me to Nelson Royal. Nelson Royal had a wrestling school up in Mooresville, North Carolina.
Right.
So, and I said, okay. And I met with Nelson and all of that. And so I drove up to Charlotte, and I went to the office in Charlotte and told them, hey, look, I want to get a job. And they said, well, we have a guy named Nelson that, looks at everybody. So I drove from Charlotte up to Mooresville, met with Nelson again. He put me in the ring with Todd Champion and Gene Anderson's son. I don't forget what
Brad.
That's him. Yes. And so I worked out with them, and Nelson called back down the office and said, hey, this kid can work. So I go back down to the office. J.J. Dillon come out, and he's talking to me. I said, well, I'd like to get a job. He said, well, right now we already have a black guy.
Were you only allowed one?
Yeah, we got 11 on black guys. Sorry.
What's
Come back when he passes away. I love those answers. You know, we got a black guy. Okay. You don't have this one, though.
They had a guy named was Joe Coltrane, and he couldn't work that good. But anyway, that's who they had.
And Joe,
And
like, no kid, because who is Joe Coltrane? I'm sorry.
so right after that, he had broke his leg or something happened to him, and you never heard from him again. They tried to give him a little push, but anyway, I was like, wow. And I went back, and I'm like,
Did
man,
you have to wait until he broke his leg to get back?
no, I didn't know he had broken his leg. And I just left, and I came back to Georgia. I came back to Georgia, and I kept trying to, contact different people. And finally, I went up and I met Ted Allen. What a worker he was.
Yeah, Ted was an outstanding guy.
Ted trained me. He trained the Big Boss Man. He trained Arn Anderson. He trained Tony Zane. He was good. So anyway, I met Ted Allen, and then I worked out with him, and then he introduced me to Jody Hamilton. And Jody had started a organization, Deep South Championship Wrestling. So Jody gave me my first break in the business. So my first match was at Cobb Civic Center live TV. I was like, okay, no pressure here.
Yeah.
So anyway, it went.
Well, you'd landed in damn bunkers with guys trying to kill you. That wasn't going to be no pressure.
So, I'm going to tell you something. I am probably the most blessed guy you ever meet, because I was so fortunate when I came into business. I got to meet a lot of these old timers. And man, I just love just sitting around talking to them, listening to some of their stories and the way they worked and the way they did things. Man, I was like a kid in a candy store, So I am one of the few guys. Listen, I love the wrestling business. I loved it. I couldn't believe that these people would pay me to do this. I was absolutely in shock that these people actually pay me to do this. I'm like, it don't get no better than this. But, anyway, I wrestled for Jody for about, I think after 6 months, he made me the heavyweight champion. I've only been in the business six months. I'm the heavyweight champion. I was like, man, this stuff is good. This is some good stuff here. So anyway, then his business started going south because a lot of the talent had left, and Jerry Blackwell had started Southern Championship Wrestling, and Jody was kind of going down, and everybody started going with Jerry Blackwell. So at this point, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? So this guy named Joe Pedicino, he hooked me up, and I was supposed to get started with Mid-South for Bill Watts. And just when I'm getting ready to go, Bill Watts sails out. I'm like, man, okay. So I ended up going to Jerry Blackwell for about a year or so, a little over a year. And then I got a call from WCW. And then I ended up in WCW. And
do you know how that call came about or anything? Who?
Yes, Jody called me. Jody Hamilton called me, and he said that George Scott wanted to meet with me. George Scott was the booker at this time. So George Scott, I go down to the office, and he takes me in there, and he lays out a whole program, what he wanted to do. I'm like, dude, I'm in. Where do I sign up for this? Y'all gonna pay me to do it? Yeah, I'll sign up. So anyway, he had this whole thing lined up, and we started doing everything that he said we was going to do. And probably about 2 months into that, they fired him.
Wow.
Now we go to this booking committee, the worst idea in the history of man. Committee. And all of these guys was more concerned about their own gimmick than anything else.
Yeah, you have a committee of whatever number, and each one of the top guy concerned about what I'm going to do, right?
Exactly.
That's never
Exactly.
worked, Ranger. That's never worked anywhere in any territory ever.
In any business.
In any business, that's right. It's never worked.
Man, that was the worst idea. And I had to suffer through that because, you know, I am used to being a team player. You tell me to put somebody over, I'm putting them over. I'm gonna do the best I can. This is, you know, the guys that gave them the hardest times, I ain't gonna do this, I ain't doing no, they would give them a push, but the guys that tried to cooperate and, you know, doing it for the betterment of the business, they just, you know, you just push you to the side. For instance, when they brought me in to work with Iron Sheik. Iron Sheik was a little long in the tooth at this time, but you know, we could still do, you know, the American, because I come out with the flag.
Oh, yeah.
He was Indian, and
Perfect,
you know, it's a good gimmick. Yeah, but you know, he was moving a little slow at this time, but no problem. So they tell me, okay, Ranger, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna get some heat on the Iron Sheik. We working at the Omni in Atlanta, and they're gonna have film there. So the Iron Sheik's gonna do something, and you get him down, and the other guy, Rip Morgan, is gonna come in, hit you over the head, and they're gonna cover you up. You're gonna lay in the middle of the ring. They're gonna cover you with the Iranian flag. I'm like, ooh, this is gonna get some heat. So we do the deal, and I'm laying in the middle of the ring. They cover me with the flag. I said, ooh, this is gonna get some heat now, boy. And people was mad. They was mad. So we go to television. This happened on a Sunday. We go to TV taping, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. And I'm sitting there watching the monitor, Iron Sheik, go out to do an interview. I tell you, I want Sting. Where's Stingy at? I want Sting. I'm like, what? And I'm like, wait a minute. I thought that, no, Iron Sheik's going to work with Sting. I said, wait a minute. I just did this deal over here to get some heat so we can get some going here. So Sting beats the Iron Sheik in 4 minutes. And I was like, oh boy, I'm toast now.
Bury me with a flag.
Oh man, it went south from there. It went way south after that. I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that.
So when did you get the opportunity to be a tag team partner with our mutual great friend Ron Simmons?
Oh my God, that is the funniest dude, man. Hey, listen, Brett, you and him, I'm still laughing about some of the stories y'all told me. I thought Ron Simmons and I just had a blast on the road. Man, we couldn't hold a candle to y'all. Y'all was like, whoo.
How do you think John kept his job for so long? It was entertaining us with Ron's stories.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. I'm still laughing at some of the stuff y'all did. That was crazy.
Hey,
but
go ahead.
So they had a couple ideas. First, they was gonna get me and Ron a push. They was gonna give us a push. Well, we started out, okay, we doing good. Then all of a sudden they come and tell me, okay, we're gonna switch Ron heel, and we're gonna use you to switch him. Like, what? Okay. So they said, what we're gonna do is win this tag team thing. And Ron, Ranger, you're going to be in there working. Ron's going to be on the apron. Peanut Head, Teddy Long's is going to come out.
Peanut Head.
And he's got on this white suit, and he's telling Ron to get down off the apron, and he's showing him something on thing. So I go over to tag Ron. Ron is on the floor talking to Teddy Long with his back turned. And so, you know, the Samoan guys are beating me up. I make it over to make the tag. Ron's outside talking to Teddy. Then Ron will get back up, and I'll tag him. He get in, do something. He get back out. I'm back in. They get heat on me again. Go to attack Ron. Him and Teddy's out there talking. And he's going, I'll be there in a minute.
Uh-oh.
Hey, you went on mute for a minute.
This is Motors calling me.
There it is.
Anyway, so that's how they, and then men that blew up. You know, then they put me and Ron against each other, and I'm beating the crap out of Ron. Teddy Peanut Head give him a gimmick to hit me with it, and Ron falls on top of me with the gimmick in his pants. So that's how we was tag team partners for a while, and then they never really gave us a push.
Yeah. That Teddy Long, that peanut headed Teddy Long. When Ron would get mad at Teddy, that's what he called him. Listen, you peanut head. I would just the way he would call him that it's like your dad called you by your whole name, you know. Listen, John Carl.
That was nothing no funnier than me and Teddy Long and Ron Simmons riding up down the road. Oh my God. And Butch Reed. I don't know. Have you ever met Butch Reed?
I've met him. I hung out with him 1 or 2 times, but I didn't really know him. But yes, I met him.
Well, one day we was all working up in Rolling Oak, Virginia. So we have a big Lincoln Town car. I'm driving. Ron Simmons sitting beside me. Butch Reed's in the passenger side back seat. Right behind me was a guy named Al Green. Big, juiced up Al Green,
huge shoulders.
Yeah, he was all jacked up.
Yeah.
And we pulled up to it. We just finished working, and we pulled up to a Wendy's, and these little kids were right there in front of the speaker talking to somebody else in the car. And then the car pulled off, and they wouldn't move. They just standing right there in the thing. So I can't get to the speaker to order. So I just kind of blew my horn, pom pom. And the kids turned around like, "Hey, what you gonna do? What you gonna do?" All 3 of the doors open. Bloom, bloom. Ron Simmons, Butch Reed, and Al Green. Whoa. All of them jumped out, and those kids see these big old monsters. They take off running. Hey, man, we don't want that. They just took off running. It was so funny. I was laughing because I didn't even move. What was the purpose of me getting out?
Yeah, especially with those 3.
Yeah. Why was I moving? What do I need to do with this? Yeah. That was some funny stuff, man. Oh.
Ron was just a different person. I mean, he was like superhuman. You know, he was stronger than everybody else. You know, it's just he had this presence about him. It just he was wherever he was the man.
Well, we would go work out, and Ron would start out with 3 plates on there, and he's warming up with this. Just warming up, doing 10 reps, and then set it down. Then we put 4 plates on it, and he's pumping that out. Then we put 5 plates on there, and he'd do it a few times and set it down. Who starts out with 3 plates?
Right. Who
does that?
Most people can't end up with 3 plates.
Dude, I'm maxing out, man. I'm doing 3 plates. I could do a few reps with it, but not like he was. Woo! Man, he was different.
Yeah.
He was different for real.
Man, when he would spine buster those guys, I'm like, I think he's dead. I think you just killed somebody. You actually killed somebody. Road Dogg used to take the spine buster. It's like he's Velcroed. He would stay on the mat and not move for the next several minutes. It was great.
It might have been by force and not by choice.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Ranger, we're sitting there one day, we're watching some kids, do like their practice, before they, the matches started, the crowd came in. They're doing a bunch of flips and stuff. Ron's sitting there just watching it. Somebody goes, "Ron, what are you doing?" He goes, "Looking at a bunch of stuff John's going to take." I said, "I ain't taking it. Don't you tag me."
Wow.
So then after the Ron thing, what would the WCW, they ended up not working after that, right?
Oh my goodness. It was horrible, that booking committee thing. It was just horrible. And I like all of the stuff you told me you're going to do, and we're not doing anything. They will give me a push. just to put somebody else over. I'm like, what are we doing here? And I'm like, listen, this Ranger thing is not just a gimmick. This is for real. I said we could do something with it. There's a lot of I give them all them ideas, and yeah, well, brother, right now, brother, my hands are tied, brother.
Was you around with Dusty there? Because I know Dusty, you just seem like a Dusty type of character that he would love to work with and push.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Dusty had a great idea. Dusty was he was there. I see Bill Watts was over Dusty, if I remember correctly. Dusty wasn't the top guy then. I think he had came in and he was working with Bill Watts. Dusty called me in. He had an idea. He said, Ranger, this is what I want to do. I want you to take Ron Simmons down to Fort Benning, and we can do the obstacle course, and you be his trainer and doing this, and making him, showing him what it's like to be a Ranger and toughing him up and all this. And then we're going to work this gimmick. We're going to do all of this. They shot it right down.
No.
Dusty had a great idea. I mean, I could have, I got all of my buddies down at Fort Benning. We can go down, we can get the obstacle course. We could do this, and we could have them make Ron an honorary, special forces guy or whatever, we could work with this. They shot it down.
That was your only experience with the Dream, huh?
Yep.
Hey, wow. Ranger, you talk about stuff, that you couldn't do these days because we did some crazy stuff back then, but you wrestled the Terrorist one time. I don't mean to go back a little bit, but you wrestled Ranger Ross versus the Terrorist. You look at that now, you're going, oh my, no, they didn't. No, they didn't. They did. They did. Jack Victory, right?
No, that was Doug Gilbert.
Oh, it was. I thought it was Jack Victory. It was Doug Gilbert.
No, that was Doug Gilbert. I saw him at the reunion. Was it last year before he was there when they did Tommy Rich?
Yeah.
He did the introduction for Tommy Rich. Doug Gilbert, man, that kid could work, man.
Yeah, couldn't he? Yeah. All those Gilbert could work. Yeah.
You know what really surprised me when I got into business? I didn't want to tell anybody that I was a shooter because I saw the way that people, yeah, he's a shooter. He can't work. None of them shoot. So I never told anybody that I wrestled amateur. I was trying to get on the Olympic wrestling team. First, we had to go through the all-Army wrestling thing, and I did some of that. And so I never told anybody that I wrestled amateur because they shooters, man. They don't know how to work. They too stiff. They this. So I never told anybody I did any of that stuff.
Very smart, very wise decision.
Yeah. So I never mentioned anything. I didn't tell them I did some kickboxing. I never no, sir. And I found that the people that could really work was they really didn't. Some of the best workers that I saw was guys that was talent enhancement, some of them, and some of the guys that they was pushing. I mean, them guys had 2 left feet, man. But they had the gimmick. I understand it's a gimmick business, but
they always said that back then, Ranger. They always said shooters can't draw money.
Yeah, that was it.
Jack Briscoe drew a ton of money, and that man was a shooter. Kurt Angle drew a ton of money. Brock Lesnar drew a ton of money. I mean, the shooters, they can draw money. It's not whether they're shooters or not. It's whether they're charismatic.
Yeah. Exactly. And then they would get into this thing, who's the toughest guy? What difference does it make, man? I'm giving you my body. I'm giving you my body. It's not that you beat me. I'm giving you my body. My job is to make you look good, make this business look good, so we can draw money. That's what it's about. It's not, well, this guy, he's one of the tough. Well, okay. But this is not a tough man business. It's not MMA.
It's show business.
This show business.
Yeah.
I mean, I could probably whoop John Wayne, but when we get in the movie, I got to put him over.
That's right.
Was you with WCW when WWE took over?
No, I was gone by then.
You were gone. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gone. Yeah, yeah. I wanted to. I came up once. I came up twice to try to get. This is a funny story. So this would have been 1990. Yeah, 1990. I drove up to the office at WWE up in Connecticut. I drove up. Say, I want to speak to somebody about getting a job. And here comes J.J. Dillon now.
Oh, JJ again.
I'm like, y'all got to be kidding me. JJ, he said, hey, how you doing? And I said, look, I want to see if I can, get a job or something. So I gave him a tape. I had a VHS tape back then, and it was me, and I was tag team partners with Tommy Rich on one of them, tag team partner with Mr. Wrestling #2, and something else. And I said, well, just, I got some tape, So I never heard back, and I finally called back, and he said, yeah, I saw the tape, you and two and all this, but right now, we don't have anything. Okay. So years later, I go to Japan and go back up in the they was working in Springfield, Connecticut. Springfield, Massachusetts. So I drove, they had a house show out there, and I went out, and no, they were doing TV taping. And I talked to Vince just briefly. After the matches was over, he come out, and I told him, I said, hey, look, I told him who I was, wanted to try to get a job, and nothing happened. So I really wanted to go to New York, because I figured with the background and some of the stuff that it seemed like to me WWE would do a little bit more with the talent. They promote it a little bit better than WCW did. I was wanting to go out and do some skydiving and do some Ranger stuff, introduction stuff, that showed me skydiving, showed me doing some, some Ranger stuff.
It's like a perfect fit because Vince loves the military.
Yeah.
He loves the military, loves the police. I mean, it seems like a perfect fit because that's something that's right up his alley with that.
Well, I did a thing. I don't know if you ever saw this or not. When I was in WCW, we was going to work at the Superdome. And I told him, I said, hey, look, let me do an Australian rappel from the top of the Superdome down to the ring. They said, you can do what? I said, well, take a rope. I'm going to tie it around my waist, and I'm going to hold the American flag in this hand, and I'm going to jump, and I'm going to come down on a rope, and I'm going to stop and go into the ring. And Jim Hurd was the head guy there, WCW. He said, well, Ranger, we can't do that. He said, the insurance policy alone would be $1 million. I said, Mr. Hurd, I said, this is going to be live on TV. I said, just think if I mess up and I hit the ground and I'm flat on day-old beer, the ratings would go through the roof. He said, well, wait a minute. So he called up. He called up to the 16th floor. He said, hey, we want to do this Australian rappel in Superdome. Can we get an insurance ride on that? He said, we can. He said, okay. He said, Ranger, go get anything you want, and we're going to do it. So I said, okay, I need this, and this, and I need 2 guys, the Army Rangers that I need. So I went down to Fort Benning, got 2 of my buddies, and I said, hey, look, give me your information. WCW going to send you a plane ticket. We got to go to New Orleans. And okay, so we got everything rigged up. I bought this 600-foot of blue water static rappel rope, everything. So we get to the Superdome the day before the event. It was a live Clash of Champions or something. So we get there. They rented the building the day before. I get there. and some of the producers and directors from WCW is there, and they had the riggers, the people that work at the Superdome. They said, okay, so we get on the elevator, takes it up to the 5th floor. We get off the 5th floor, we go in this room and we climb a ladder all the way on the outside of it's inside of the Superdome, but it's up against the outer wall. We climb all the way up to the top of the Superdome, and then we get on a catwalk, and it zigzags all the way to the apex of the Superdome. So I'm standing 300 feet. I'm touching the very top of the Superdome, right where everything comes together. I'm touching it with my hand. And so we couldn't rappel from there because there's a scoreboard down about 100 feet. So we rappel down to the scoreboard, and there's a catwalk around the scoreboard. And we tie up, and the guys are down on the ground. I said, y'all ready? They said, yeah. I said, okay. So I leaned out, and I just dove face first all the way down. And I hit the brakes, and I stood up. They say, oh, my God, you're crazy. They said, but this is great. We're going to shoot it. We'll put the spotlights here. We'll shoot it from this angle, this angle. And I said, okay, we're good. So we get back to the hotel, and the rope I had tied around my waist had burnt almost in half.
Ooh.
I'm like, dude, what are we going to do? So we figured out we got a new rope, and we put electrical tape on it, wrapped in electrical tape where it's going to burn through it. So the next day we get there before the show. We got to go all the way back through this whole process, all the way up to the top of the Superdome, down to the scoreboard. And we sitting there for about 2 hours, me and my buddy. We had some sandwiches because he was the safety guy to make sure everything was hooked up. And then we had the other guy on the rope on the bottom, the safety on the bottom. So we're sitting there, and the show's going on, and I'm the 5th match. So I stand up, I get hooked up, and they start playing my music. It's called K-Song Go Rolling Along. Dun, 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 dun. And I'm playing it, and I'm leaning out. I'm waiting on the spotlight. There's no spotlight. I'm waiting. Now it's about halfway through the song. I said, I'm going. And I just jump. And I come down, and the camera picks me up when I'm about halfway down, and it's dark, and you can see me coming down, and I land, and I go into the ring, and I work with Iron Sheik. And the guy that was supposed to have the spotlight and the director, they all got fired.
Good grief.
We go there the day before to have all of this stuff set up, and that's all they had to do was shine the spotlight, and they messed that up.
Wow.
So unbelievable.
So I like to do stuff like that. Well, let's put it, I used to like to do stuff like that. I'm 65 now. I don't do it. But anyway.
So Razor, if you don't mind, because you said you didn't mind before we talked, but before we go, I'm going to be healthy for a long time, but I've loved this so much. I could talk to you all day about your life. Tell me about, because it's part of your testimony now and you're a witness now because you're a minister, even though you wouldn't pray over my baseball bets in Vegas, which I'm still mad at you about because I lost. So, but that your greatest prayer I've almost ever heard of this thing, just pray over my baseball bets, and he wouldn't do it. So still mad about that. Tell me about Motorcycle Bandit.
Yeah.
Okay. After I had left WCW and all of that, and I had started a business as a private investigator, and had a small child, and my wife and I were going to get a divorce. So she wasn't happy. Okay, no problem. So she and we sat down and we decided, look, we started as friends, we're going to end as friends. So we sat down and we wrote down everything that she was going to get, I was going to get. I'm going to keep the house. I'm going to pay off the debt, and we're going to do this. We got her a condo and everything, and we was going to have joint custody of the kid, our daughter. And then I was going to pay this. She's going to pay that. So anyway, I go over to give her the child support money one day. I help her move and did anything. We was friends, I thought. And so she said, well, this is not enough. I'm like, what do you mean? She said, well, my lawyer. I said, whoa, wait a minute. Because we sat down, she said, are you going to get a lawyer? I said, I don't need a lawyer. Just everything we wrote down, you just give it to your lawyer. He put it in legal form, and we'll sign it, and we'll be done. She said, well, my lawyer said I can get I said, wait a minute. This is between me and you. The lawyer had nothing to do with this. So now I got to go get a lawyer. And I went through 2 lawyers. I went through about $48,000 in my savings. That's all I had. And so I'm at the point now where, I don't have any money and just started my business. So I could have called about 10 people, but there's something called foolish pride. I didn't want anybody to know that I was destitute. And one of my best friends, he's still mad at me today because I could have just, I could have borrowed some money and, went on. But the divorce just got so bitter. It got so ugly. And I just went through this deep, like just, I look back on it now, it was depression. I did. I got in the worst funk, and just mad. And, because it didn't have to go this way. And anyway, so once I ran out of money, and that foolish pride said, well, hey, dude, what are you going to do? You're a ranger. You either find a way or you make a way. So I made one of the stupidest decisions you could ever make. I decided, I said, well, you know what? We could just go up here at the bank and just go in there and tell them to give me some money, put on my helmet, drive a little motorcycle up there, and keep the helmet on. They wouldn't know who I was. So I went in there and told them to give me some money, and they put the money in the bag. I jumped on the motorcycle and took off. And man, I'm telling you, you had never been whooped until God chased you. When God get after you, buddy, that's one of the worst whippings you could ever get. And I just like, man, I like, this ain't me. This is not me. And I did it several times. I said, this is not me.
Several times. How many times did you do it?
3.
Wow.
So I went and I turned myself in. And I just,
that self-guilt got to you, and you did the right thing.
Yeah. And you know what? It was the worst thing. And I learned from this. Whatever the devil meant for bad, God can make it good, because it actually turned out pretty good. I mean, I went to prison. I went to college, got a degree in theology, got a degree in small engine technology. And I have a testimony. And I could tell people, they say, well, you don't know about it. Yes, I do. I know. And I tell anybody, when you get into that rut, you got to have somebody that you're close to for accountability. And that's the best thing you could do, is have a friend. A friend, the last 3 words of friend spell N, E-N-D. Friend, F-R-I-E-N-D. Friend. A friend is to the N, to the E-N-D. And if you got a close friend, you just use that person as accountability. But the thing is that you got to trust God. And that was my biggest mistake, that God had a plan for me, but I'm thinking God might need a little help on this one. God don't need my help. He didn't need my help. So I went through all of that to get to where I'm at now. And I've been very successful since I got out. I mean, man,
how long did you have to serve?
8 years.
Wow.
Wow.
Was that along with the arson deal too?
Yes, I was going to get to that. What happened is I was doing this thing as a part-time probation officer for the city, but I took the job because there was a little community that had a little playground area, and the city was taking that away from the kids. And I told them, I said, well, I'll take that as a job, and I'll donate all the money to keep this little park area going for the kids. That would be all of my money would go to that. And at the same time, that's when I start going through the divorce and all of that stuff. And then I had embezzled some of the money from that. And so what I did was I went to the office and I couldn't get all of the records out. So I just poured some stuff on it and set it on fire. So I burned up a cabinet and they charged me with arson.
And you had 8 years. Where did you start? Where did you have to serve? What were you in Georgia?
Yeah, no, actually, the bank robbery was a federal. So I went to a federal prison in Talladega, Alabama. Talladega, Alabama, and then once I finished the federal, I had to go do the state prison thing in Georgia for the arson.
Was the prison down in Talladega, was it air conditioned?
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's the problem with the prisons down south. A lot of them don't have air conditioning, at least down in Texas, which is a real issue. But you had good conditions there.
Yeah, yeah. I tell you what, it's a huge difference from state prison to federal prison. Federal prison, I mean, some of the guys that I saw on TV was in the prison. Most of them was more educated. There was lawyers. There was a judge in there with me. He was a judge in Alabama. I think his name was Judge Lanier. He was there. Black Jack was there.
Really?
Yeah.
Was there when you were there?
Yeah, he was in the camp. Like I was in the medium security. He was in the minor security right next door.
Did you ever get to see him?
No, I didn't. But the guy that worked in both would tell me, he would tell me something, I would tell him something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that where you went to college? Was in prison?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And what did you think about? Because there's a real issue. Because I work as I've told you a lot with kids from at-risk areas end up in prison. They kind of get lost. What do you think about the rehabilitation process in the prison there? About what they do to cut down the recidivism rates?
Well, here's the thing: is there's no rehabilitation program. I mean, there's classes that they offer you. Some people have mandatory classes. If you did something that you have an anger issue, you have to take anger class. You do something that's drug related, you have to take these drug classes. If you're a sex offender, you got to go to these classes. But the overall, as far as rehabilitation, no. It's either you are gonna get it in your mind that, I'm not coming back here. I'm going to better myself. They offer these classes over here. It's up to you to take them. You can take advantage of the system, or you could the worst thing you could do is let the time do you instead of you doing the time.
Right.
A lot of people walking around and they're just bitter. And I found out the difference between bitter and better is the letter I. You can spell those words just the same. The only difference is the letter I. You could be bitter or you could be better. It's up to you.
If you had one thing to change in our prison systems that would make it better for the people that are served to cut down recidivism rates, what would you change?
Well, I think the way I would start with the state prisons. State prisons are horrible. Absolutely horrible, because these people just sit around and they really don't have that much to do. So if you can go in and you can you can get with the wrong people, and you can come out a worse criminal than you went in. This is basically young people. Young people. Older people, they're not with all of that foolishness and with the gangs and all of that kind of stupid stuff. No, the older people's not down with that. Then the drugs, oh man, they would smuggle drugs in there. I mean, these guys are getting high on um, marijuana, um, um, LSD, all kinds of drugs that they had in there, the stuff I never even heard of. And I back to your question, I think you should take people that want to better themselves and have a separate avenue for them, because there's some people that are just going to keep reoffending.
Right.
That's just their nature. They don't want to do better. Then there's some people that make a mistake. Listen, people make mistakes, but it's fools that don't learn from them. Everybody makes mistakes. But if you don't learn from it, you're a fool. I went to speak at this prison up here in North Georgia, and they started this program where they take people that they are Christian based thing, that if you're a believer and you want to make a change, they'll put you in this prison so they don't have all of the gangs and all of that stuff. That is great because they have people come in, speak to them, and trying to help them better themselves. That's a little bit more rehabilitation than they have in the regular state prison. Regular state prison, there's no rehabilitation.
Right.
I could walk around and I could tell you who's coming back. And not that I was some kind of Nostradamus or anything, but I could tell you pretty much who's coming back, who wasn't.
Right.
Because they just kept doing, even while they're in prison, they still doing illegal stuff, still doing the same thing they was doing out on the street.
Yeah. Well, when I ran into the first time in Vegas, I text Ron right away, and I said, "Hey, I'm out here with your guy Ranger Ross," and Ron texted me back right away. That is the best guy around. That's all he said about you. You know, you got such a great reputation. Everybody that's ever met you says great things about you, and now you're a minister, even though you wouldn't pray over my baseball bets. You're you're a minister. Tell us what you're doing now.
Well, I'm getting ready to start a helicopter touring company in Grenada. Our first flight would be October the 25th. I've been retired for about 3 years. And I guess I failed at retirement because I'm starting another business.
No, I'm 77 years old. I'm still working to find another business to start.
Well, so I'm starting that, and I got a great grandson that I chase him around.
A great grandson. You say a great grand?
Oh, don't it made him mad calling him old, John.
That's right.
Called him a great granddad.
I called him a great. I said great grandson.
Damn, John, you run off all of our guests like this.
Usually it's you that runs them off.
Yeah, it's me there.
What a bunch of great stories. That was awesome. I mean, he was there in Tehran.
He was
when
there,
they had
man.
The embassy screw up. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, were you too young to remember it? I mean,
no, I remember it like it was yesterday. No,
yeah.
I was born in '66. That was '79, I believe. So I was 13 or 14, depending on how the day was according to my birthday. But yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah, it was poor Jimmy Carter.
It sunk him. It sunk Carter, and Carter was not the one that made a decision on the ground.
No. Well, like you said, there was a guy that they had in charge. I mean, you get those joint commands, you know. One don't know what the other can do, you know, and I think that was the entire thing. This one guy, you know, that had the final say, thought his people were better than the Rangers that are trained to do that stuff. And what we found out is, you know, the Rangers could have completed the Michigan, but everybody just panicked and
huge.
Pulled it off. Yeah, that's huge.
That's huge. That could have changed history.
Yeah, it would have changed history if they just let the Rangers do their job, what they were trained to do.
Yeah, because that was such an unbelievable scene when they're dragging those bodies through the city streets.
Oh God, that was horrible.
I remember people were calling for war against.
I know it. I mean, that was one of the worst things ever in our history of our country.
That's right, and it could have been avoided.
Yeah, totally avoided there. But
Well, there you have it, Mr. Briscoe.
Well, there we got it, man. We got another one out of here, and you piss off another guest. So
hopefully Ranger will start talking to us again sometime.
Well, hopefully he'll bless your baseball. You kept at him not blessing your baseball games. I think that's what really upset him.
That's right.
Yeah. So.
Well, hey, there's Ranger Ross right there.
Okay.
What's up, Ranger?
Where is he? I don't see him.
70% on it when I started, and it died.
Hey, no problem. We figured that's what it was. So, man, we can't thank you enough. We'll wrap it up from here. Just we can't thank you enough for coming on. That was so wonderful to hear. Your story is incredible. I will tell him. He's right here. He can kind of hear you because I got the phone on speaker.
I heard that, but thank you. I always appreciate that.
No. We wrapped up, but he's still on the Zoom with me because I was talking to him.
And when you hear from your peers, one of your peers, it just means that much more. So tell him thank you.
I love the way he worked.
And he just said when you hear from your peers talking about you that you were a fan, he said that means a lot to him. He said, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ranger. That was awesome, man. I tell you, brother, I'm a big fan of yours. I thought it just it got better and better and better every second of the show today. So thank you so much for sharing your story, man. That was awesome.
No problem, my brother. Listen, hopefully I see you in Vegas, man.
Yes, sir. I will be there, and I look forward to seeing you. All right, my brother. Have a great night. Thank you. Thanks. All
right, John. Thank you, and I'll see you next one.